Hi guys, welcome back. If you're an A-level economics student who's appearing for his economics exam in the upcoming series, then here are my top 5 tips that you must follow. So first, understand the assessment objectives and know the examiner expectations. See, assessment objectives is the key. When examiners mark your answers, they mark your answers based on assessment objectives, which means that the allocation of the marks is basically based on how well you execute the assessment objectives. Now, I've already made a video on assessment objectives, so make sure that you also watch that. It's in my playlist. In fact, I'll attach the link in this video's description. Now, when I talk about knowing the examiner's expectation, you must know what the examiner actually wants when you're writing answers. See, examiners want structured answers, not something that you have written without a structure. For example, I talk about a structure. A structure means an introduction, then comes your analysis, then your evaluation, followed by a conclusion, also known as a judgment, right? Also, you must understand what the command word means. You must understand what it means when the question says to what extent, what it means when it says analyze or discuss questions. You must have a thorough understanding of these command words. See, you must understand the examiner is not inside your head. He only understands what you write. Hence, it follows that you must write properly according to the exam criteria. Also, avoid writing vague and generalized answers. Make sure that your answer is specifically tailored in the direction of what is being asked in the question. Number 2, write proper introductions and proper conclusions. You guys should never underestimate the importance and the effectiveness of proper introductions and proper conclusions. You see, introductions set the tone and the precedence of your essay. It's just like the first impression that you give to the examiner about your knowledge and your skills and your learning that you have. So good and effective introductions communicate to the examiner that you are definitely a good student and in fact probably worthy of getting good marks. Also remember that effective, well-reasoned, proper judgment or conclusions are also very important because they set the lasting impression about you. Number 3, draw proper diagrams. See, diagrams are not decorations. Diagrams are half your answer in an economics essay. We cannot underestimate the importance of drawing proper diagrams. Also understand that diagrams must be drawn with a scale and a dark pencil. You must also understand that these diagrams must be properly labeled. The line should be drawn properly. The labeling must be proper. It should effectively communicate what you're trying to say. Also, don't just draw the diagram, but you also have to explain it. The diagram should not appear like a loner in the essay. The diagram must be explained properly as well. You can say the above diagram says that or the below diagram says that, but make sure that you are explaining the diagram properly, right? Also, you must understand that the diagram must not be too small that the examiner finds it very difficult to understand and comprehend the diagram. Also, the diagram should not be too large that it just takes half your page. So make a proper size diagram. So guys, when a student is making diagrams, there are multiple diagrams that you can draw in an essay, right? But some diagrams are your primary diagrams, while some diagrams are your secondary or supporting diagrams to your analysis or evaluation. So guys, for your primary diagram, you must ensure that you use an appropriate heading for that diagram, right? That what it is trying to show. For example, if you're drawing a diagram for, maybe demand per inflation, which is your primary diagram, then you must also label diagram A dash demand per inflation. These are just small tips that you need to follow. Now guys, one more important thing regarding diagrams is that, as I mentioned previously as well, that make sure that you're drawing the diagrams with a dark pencil. And the reason why I'm saying that is that your answer scripts are scanned. So at times what happens is that if you have drawn the diagram with a light pencil, your answer script will not capture it properly and it will not be visible as well. Maybe half the diagram will be visible, but half of it might not be visible. And we have seen such cases as well. So make sure that, the diagram is drawn properly because you must provide convenience to the examiner. Number 4, master writing effective evaluations. Now I've already made a very detailed post on Instagram regarding how to write effective evaluations. As you can see on my screens, make sure to check that post out. It will definitely benefit you. Now, as far as this video is concerned, I will also brief you about evaluation, but make sure that you go and check that post out. So guys, see, evaluation is a word that encompasses a lot of things. So for example, if you're trying to evaluate something, you're actually critiquing the narrative. Another way of evaluating could also mean challenging the assumptions, let's say, or critically giving real life examples. For example, when talking about whether a rise in aggregate demand will always lead to inflation, you could challenge this by saying that a rise in aggregate demand would not always lead to inflation, especially when you have a lot of spare capacity, as suggested by John Maynard Keynes, because his macroeconomics views were popularized during the Great Depression of the 1930s. And he observed, for instance, that the economy could be stuck in a deep recession. Hence, the only way to bring the economy out of it was through stimulating aggregate demand through fiscal policies, let's say, or fiscal or monetary policies. Again, this is challenging the narrative. You're challenging the narrative that a rise in AD could be inflationary by saying, no, the economy could be stuck in a deep recession, and even if you try to boost AD, probably the economy will not witness inflationary pressures, as suggested by John Maynard Keynes, because of his theories that were based around the Great Depression of the 1930s. So by giving this example, you're sort of critically evaluating the narrative by giving real life examples. Also remember, guys, just talking about limitations or the disadvantages of something is not evaluation, right? Disadvantages is not evaluation. Disadvantages is something that is covered in analysis, right? So evaluation talks from a critical perspective. For example, suggesting alternative policy. So if the question is asking about, for instance, discuss whether indirect taxes is the most successful policy in, curing or reducing market failures or reducing the consumption of demerit goods. So you could, under evaluation, you could talk about probably indirect taxes is a good policy, but indirect taxes, as we know, is regressive in nature. So it's not a policy that should be used over the long term if you want long-term benefits, right? So for that, maybe information provision could also be used. Mentioning a secondary policy in corroboration to your primary policy or suggesting an alternative policy, especially in policy questions, also forms part of evaluation. So this is again another way to evaluate. So there are not just one ways to evaluate, there are plenty of ways that you must evaluate, and every question is different. So basically, effective evaluation is a mix and match of effectively using all different forms of evaluation and sort of executing it in your answer. And now number 5, which is the most important tip, and that is time management. See, time management is a non-negotiable skill in the exam. So it doesn't matter how much you know if you can't finish the paper on time. So don't spend too much time on one question. If you're stuck, move on. And the only way that you can manage your time effectively in an exam is when you are already trained to manage time effectively before the exam. And in order to train yourself on how to manage time, you must practice. Now, what should you practice? You must practice past paper questions. Time yourself and practicing past paper question. For example, if you know that you have to finish this question, let's say in 35 or 40 minutes, then you must put a timer in front of you, stopwatch, put it on, put that timer on, and then attempt the past papers. And it's not just attempting 1 or 2, past paper questions using your timer on. At least practice 5 to 6 yearly papers so that you can master time management. Because you see, time management is the biggest enemy that you will have to face while attempting your exam. I have seen a lot of students who know a lot, they have a lot of knowledge, but they are not able to finish the economics paper. And this goes for P2 as well. This also goes for P4, because a lot of students struggle in time management, and the only way that you can do is through practicing past papers, through understanding and knowing how much you are supposed to write, and also writing fast. Also, you see, a lot of students who are just studying from the notes, who have never attempted a question, they have probably just seen the answers, never attempted it, never probably made notes, are never mentally trained. They haven't trained themselves to actually write something down, on paper. So when you're attempting past papers, you're actually training your brain to finish the exam on time. Yearly past paper practice is training yourself, and that is very, very crucial. So guys, like I said, time management, you cannot compromise on this. You have to make sure that you manage your paper and you finish your paper on time, in fact. So that's it, guys. If you like this video, make sure that you share it with your friends and peers so that they may also know what sort of tips that they must be following during their preparation before the exam. Also, guys, let me know in the comments what my next video should be on. So probably we can start a series as well. We can start a series as well on answer writing or, exam tips or something like that. So if you found this video useful, share it, and also mention in the comments what sort of other content, probably something along those lines, that you would want me to make for you guys. So that's it. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Until then, take care.